Hey everybody, I want to talk about a product and platform that I absolutely love and our latest sponsor, Interseller, the prospecting and outreach platform of choice for recruiters and sellers. Whether you're doubling down on business development or recruiting talent, Interseller does all the heavy lifting of finding contact data, automating the email and follow-up process, and syncs all that rich data into 20 plus CRM and ATS platforms. Reach out now and get going on a 2-week free trial and let them know you heard about it from Adam on the podcast today. Check out the link on the website. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast where I bring you the best and brightest from the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. My guest today, Erik Huberman, is the founder and CEO of Hawke Media, the fastest growing marketing consultancy in the US. And launched in 2014, they've been valued at over $75 million. That's right. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Good for you, man. And has grown from 7 to over 150 employees in 3 locations, now 21 states if we're talking post current COVID, but offices in LA, New York, and Boston. And the company has served over 2,000 brands of all sizes, ranging from startups like Tamara Mellon, CO Beauty, and Bottle Keeper to household names like Red Bull, Verizon Wireless, and Alibaba. I'm sure you've heard of a few of those. And as a serial entrepreneur and marketing expert, Erik is a sought-after thought leader in the world of digital marketing, entrepreneurship, sales, and business. And prior to Hawke, he founded and grew and sold 2 successful e-commerce companies. Awesome. And he's a recipient of numerous honors and awards, all the good stuff, the Forbes 30 Under 30, the CSQ 40 Under 40, Inc. magazine, and all that fun stuff. Awesome, good stuff of the year. And Biz North America's Marketing Executive of the Year. Hope you get some cool trophies and plaques and stuff there.
I have one. I was at the office, but I got one right here.
Everyone loves a good trophy. So whoever's going to watch this on the YouTube replay, you'll see Erik's pretty cool man cave office there. And we'll talk about all that. We'll talk about entrepreneurship, and we'll talk about what it's like to build, manage, and run an agency in this age of COVID. And I'm really excited to dive into Erik's extensive career and his commitment to tenacity in any and every project that he puts his mind to. Erik, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Fantastic. So let's get started here. Some people may know you, some may not. So I'd love if you could give my audience a quick little intro and tell us who you are and what you do best, man.
Yep. I'm a Scorpio, like to snowboard. No, I
long walks on the beach.
I runs. I like to run. Walk, I get bored. I need to move. I broke my leg, but it's healing. So I actually just ran for the second time in 3 months last night. So it's getting there. So backgrounds in e-commerce. I graduated in 2008. I've always had an entrepreneurial side to me. My dad's an entrepreneur. His dad was an entrepreneur. I just kind of grew up thinking that's what you did, was start businesses. And so I started random businesses throughout, since I was 6 years old, and came out of college, went into real estate. That was 2008. Economy collapsed. I made $350 that year. Super awesome. Living in LA was a good budget. And so then ended up launching an online music company. After built that for 2 years, hired a CEO to take it over, built and sold 2 consecutive e-commerce fashion companies. And then about 7 years ago, hated the marketing ecosystem, thought it was all bullshit. And there needed to be a company that actually created accessibility to great marketing that was easy to work with, but also really good at what they did. That's what we started. And here we are 7 years later, about 160 people.
Awesome.
Well, yeah.
I love your story. And you and I have connected a bunch in the past, similar models being an on-demand, which I absolutely love. So one of the core pillars of the show, the podcast, is to break down my guest's career, because I think so many people listening love to get the insights and the learning. So I want to talk about, from Fame Wizard to Swag of the Month, and even your own consulting business. You successfully create and execute so many models. Can you walk us through how, firsthand experience has enabled you to really be able to pivot, to grow quickly, and really take that entrepreneurial mindset and shift from business to business?
Yeah, I think it just came up in a conversation 2 days ago, so it's timely in that sense. I was actually a podcast. They were asking me all about how'd you deal with this, how you deal with that. And I think you start to learn that being an entrepreneur or a founder is just dealing with crap all the time, and it's always a fire. Actually, our mutual friend Gary Vee said something like 5 years ago. We were talking. He said, like, yeah, I mean, being an entrepreneur is eating shit, and your ability to eat shit defines how successful you're going to be, or something along those lines. And I was like, yeah. And don't get me wrong, it's not a woe is me thing. I love being an entrepreneur, but you are going to deal with the biggest problems. And so as you do it more and more, you develop a knack for handling problems, solving them, figuring it out. And that's emotionally and tactically, meaning like you also stop being so affected by the fact you have another issue in the business or another problem you have to deal with. So I think that's really what a lot of those help with.
And I hear a lot too. I mean, I'm 3 years into my entrepreneurial journey, and I hear a lot of advice saying that you have to take the anything personal out of it. You have to be business all the time. But being an entrepreneur, you're a business owner. I'm a business owner. This is personal. How do you manage that? How do you keep business and how do you keep the personal side of and not let it affect you when you do have to eat shit?
I actually don't agree that it's you keep the personal out of it. I think you keep the emotion out of your decision making. I think that's where you get into trouble when you act on emotion for your decisions. But when it comes to, I mean, like, I put a lot of my maybe I do. I put a lot of my self-worth in my ability to build a business. And that's just the fact, what healthy or not, I really love that. Now, let's say if Hawke failed tomorrow, I wouldn't be suicidal. It's not that level of like self-worth, right. But like, I truly gain a lot of pride in the things I'm able to accomplish professionally.
Of course.
So when that's attacked, it's personal. So
absolutely.
And, my business partner has even alluded to the fact, like, he's got 2 young kids. He's like, when things don't go with the business, that's my kid's college tuition. That's like,
I feel it, man.
It's real. And so, it is personal in a lot of ways. The same way getting fired is personal, as much as you want to say it's professional. Like it's
100%.
It's a bullshit line is really what it is. Like we live in a capitalist world. Money is personal.
Of course. And it's tied to everything that you do. I want to rewind a little bit. It's interesting when you talk about your family history, how entrepreneurship, runs in the blood. Was there a moment early on in life, right? I mean, like really early on, maybe when you looked at your dad and you're like, I want to do what dad does. I feel it. It's in my veins. It's something that I just want to do. Was that like the course? Was that the direction? Was that the only way forward?
No, it was quite the opposite. There was a defining moment. I always liked the idea of like making money. And again, part of this was just, I took it for granted because the role models I had were business owners. So I was like, that's just what you do. But no, the real kick that I remember was I was 8 years old. I wanted an electric guitar because my name was Erik and the only other Erik I knew about was Eric Clapton. I was like, I need to buy an electric guitar. I'm going to learn to play guitar. I'm going to be a guitarist. And I went to my dad. I was like, I want an electric guitar. And my dad said to an 8-year-old, good, get a fucking job. And I went, okay. I didn't go, I'm 8 or like, things like that. I was like, okay. So I started buying and selling Beanie Babies. And that was the pivot where I learned like trading and, arbitrage and all those things that it was like, I was 8 years old literally made thousands of dollars. And, kind of on my own, like I would ride my bike. I lived in a small town called Ojai. I'd ride my bike to town because it was safe there. I would go buy them at the local mart. I'd buy the ones I thought were going to be worth something. Then I'd go sell them at trade shows with my friend's dad that would take us, like then eBay, et cetera. So I was doing it on my own. And that kicked off that desire. I still thought I wanted to be a guitarist till I was about 14 and realized I wasn't that good.
Oh yeah.
But that's what set off the business side.
No, I love it. And I see a guitar in the background there. How much do you play these days?
There's actually 4 right there, 1 over there, and 2 in the closet.
and how much time do you have to like escape and just jam out?
Not a lot. I mean, I really believe this, and my wife called me out on it with working out too. It's time you make, not time you have. It's if you prioritize it. But I mean, that's why I have them sitting right here. I have one sitting in my living room. I have them all over the house. That it's like, I got 5 minutes and I can just pick one up. I do it all the time.
No, is that
way? Just to be clear, like even though I have this, it's a hobby. I am not that good of a musician.
Is that your escape? Is that like the space that you need to kind of clear your head and focus? Like if there's a problem, if you're in like a creative block, if you're trying to figure something out. I mean, what do you do? Is it the guitar? Is it working out? What's your escape?
Working out. It's exercise. Going for a run's great. Working out. I have a gym right below me.
Nice.
At home, snowboarding is huge, but that's not something like if I have a creative block, I can't go jump on a snowboard. But
it depends where you live.
Yeah, Santa Monica, tough.
Yeah, tough one.
Yeah, I might look like an idiot if I'm jumping up and down the street on a snowboard. But but that is an escape. Snowboarding's huge for me. Like that is, I think I love doing that more than just about anything else. But day to day exercise for sure.
That's awesome. So let's jump into the Hawke story. I'd love if you could share a little background, where the idea came from. Was it hatched over, a drink? Was it something that you woke up in the middle of the night? Where did Hawke come from?
Hatched, no pun intended.
Pun intended, man. I try to really prepare and write a good show.
Well. So it came from a few different sources, and something I don't think I've talked about publicly, but the last company I had, Ellie, I ran the whole marketing side of it. And I had I think a 10-person marketing team, and the business was about $6 million business. It was a big marketing team for the business that we had. I needed all those expertise, but I needed them part-time. So we actually even had brainstormed about the idea of hiring out our marketing team to other brands to help subsidize the cost of having them, because I wanted them all, but I didn't need, there was downtime across all of them. So I think that seed was planted. That wasn't like a conscious, I've got to start this business. It was just like, I already had that in mind of a need. And then after we sold that, I was advising and consulting, and I just hated the marketing ecosystem. Hiring in-house, it's not cost effective. That's if you can find good marketers, and then you're operating in a vacuum, which is detrimental too. On the agency side, 99% of agencies are full of shit, and the few that are good tend to go up market and get really expensive. I mean, again, Vayner being one of them. They started really scrappy, but now they really don't want to take small businesses, and they launched a subsidiary and they're trying to do other things there. But most agencies find that servicing small and medium businesses is a pain in the ass, and they don't want to do it anymore. For us, and so I just got sick of it, hired a little SWAT team to kind of like solve it for the clients I was advising for, and then just continue to scale it, and really came to the conclusion that standing on principle that we're going to work with businesses of all sizes and creating a business model that supports that became our ethos. And so our mission statement's accessibility to great marketing for everyone. And so we're constantly talking about the idea of both being great, like being the best marketers out there, and being easy to work with and flexible and accessible.
The word that's coming to mind when I hear your story is the word disruptive, changing the norm, challenging the norm. What does that word disruptive mean to you, Erik?
Honestly, for now, it feels a little cliche. It just comes up with every tech startup says they're disrupting the industry. So I don't use it much, but
same thing as unprecedented, right? Everyone's throwing around unprecedented.
Yeah, unprecedented times, new normal, all that. But yeah, in terms of disruptive, I mean, I would say we are, because every agency, I don't come from the agency space. Every agency owner that I talk to, everyone in my network is like, you're dumb. This is never going to work. Like, this is not, this business model won't work. And now we're 7 years in, we're hyper profitable, we're sustainable. We didn't lay anyone off for COVID. Like, we've done really, really well. And I think in spite of all the things that we're supposed to be unsustainable.
How much does it motivate you when someone says you can't do something, or it's not going to work out, or this is not a good idea? How much does that drive you?
I don't think it drives me, because like, I'm not like I would say I am a contrarian. I will argue it. I will debate it, but it's not necessarily like, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. When I do, it drives me. Like, once it happens, I'm like, haha, fuck you. But when they say it, I'm like, all right, well, let me take into account. No, I don't agree. So I'm just going to keep going anyways. But I actually weigh it. Like, if someone said, there are things people have told me not to do that I go, no, you're right. That's a really stupid move. Like, we launched a private equity arm to buy distressed brands and actually take them over, relaunch them. And people were like, you need to run that full time. Like, that's not going to be a side business. Like, that's a bad idea. And the truth is, yeah, you're right. That's a stupid idea. Let's not go with that. Like, so there's times where people say, don't do that. And I go, yeah, that's fair. But when I disagree, I would say it doesn't drive me until I'm proven I'm wrong. Then I feel it's more celebratory than it is a driver.
I'm with you, man. I mean, I love when people challenge me. I mean, we talked about my model as well too. But when was the last time you were proven wrong?
I mean, it happens all the time. I'm trying to think, what happened yesterday. I mean, it legitimately happens all the time. It's, I really, like, we just launched our podcast this morning, actually. And I went to the team. Thank you. And we did a listening party as a team, and I thought everyone's going to love it. And then I got some very blunt negative feedback from a few people. Not everyone, but a few people had some very critical feedback about it. And it was like, again, that's kind of being proven wrong, because I was super excited. I'm like, shit. All right, good to know going forward. So
yeah, I mean, listen, the same thing, right? Like, podcasting is one of those things too. It's one of those things where people think they could just jump in and be great at it, automatically. And no matter how good you are, no matter how charismatic and personal you are, it takes, like everything else, it takes the rep and the practice. I think your show, you're going to be, I think it's episode 107 or 108 you're coming out with here, maybe 110 even, but before we had this conversation right now, I put in 110 episodes. Yeah. And there's a flow, there's a cadence here, and you got to get into it. So let's shift gears. Let's talk business for a little bit. Let's talk about raising money and scaling ventures. everyone talks about time. We got to raise. Like, do you have any suggestions for those in the first time raise round? Some real tactical, actionable advice from your experience.
So first off, don't raise money unless you can build a business without it and raising to scale. Like that I hate businesses, and there are exceptions. So I'm speaking in hyperbole, but like our business is bootstrapped. I can tell you, like, there have been times where I wish I had support, but I will tell you also, I don't regret never raising money. I love it. Once it's stable, it's amazing. Not having to answer to anyone, it's truly where entrepreneurship's at its best. So that's first part. But obviously we have a fund, so I'm not like anti-fundraising in general. To scale a business quickly and to grab market share and to do things like that, it makes sense. And at some point you have a formula where, if you spend $1, you should make 5, 10, whatever that number is. So you need money to scale. If you need money to actually execute your idea, that's scary. That means you don't have the team that can execute it, and you're usually going to fail. So if you have that, then fundraising is easy. If you've already got to market, you're making money, you've got a path, and you've got something that people want, and you've got traction, raising money is easy. If you can't get there without raising money, unless you're a like high science or some sort of really complicated company, I'd be worried about the business.
Yeah, that's some really sound advice here. Thank you for sharing that. And let's shift to the nonprofit side, your philanthropic side. And you're coming up on 5 years as the chairman of Build. What does Build stand for?
Oh, I'm not the acting chairman anymore. I don't know if I'm
still. Well, let's fill everyone in on what Build is.
We have a whole nother charitable aspect now, but Build's great. Build.
Feel free to talk about it. Absolutely.
Yeah, they put classes into inner city high schools, entrepreneurship classes. So they actually make it a part of the curriculum to teach kids entrepreneurship in high school all over the country. So they're a great organization. We just dealt with some issues in LA that I stepped back, but yeah, work with them. We work with Orphan Starfish, which is celebrating, I think, year 13 or 14. They have their gala this month, which is they put computer labs in inner city high schools. Went that other way. They put computer labs in orphanages.
Interesting.
Yeah, because they found that, especially in other countries, Latin America, I forgot what country it was. I think it was Chile, maybe. But wherever they started, they found that women out of orphanages had like a 95% rate of going into prostitution. And when they introduced computer labs, it just went to zero because they had skills. All of a sudden they have computer skills. So it was like a very easy solve to give education. And that's our overall governing thesis around charity and giving back is education. So now we run Saturday digital marketing classes for inner city kids in LA and kids in basically Inglewood area and South Central that we're now building. We're going to scale that, but we just launched that ourselves in partnership with the city council there. And then we also, there's another one, Nifty, which brings entrepreneurs to speak in high schools and helps teach high school kids entrepreneurship as well.
That's fantastic. And when you're working with these young people, firsthand, what are those like kind of initial skills, those foundational pieces that you're trying to instill in them and bring out? Drive,
confidence, honestly. Like it's, the opportunity gap is real, but the opportunity is also real where, I even said it in a little, with a little bit of ego behind it was like, hey, you guys are all on with me right now. You call me and need a job. I probably know someone that could hire you. So like leverage network, you have me, like that's a start. Let's go figure out who else you can know. And like trying to teach them those kind of skills to like really reach out, introducing them to my team, even hiring some of them, like just trying to build out that confidence and drive that they want to do it and they believe they can.
And that's one of those things too. And you hit a magic word for me, which is relationships. I mean, for me, my success is built on that. That's the reason you and I are talking today, because I foster, I continue to engage with you. We have conversations, and now here we are today. And this is one of those things that I really try to instill early on. I'd love if you could talk a little bit about your perspective of the value of relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, another thing that I think becomes cliche, but I do believe it's all network. And it's people think networking is going to fucking cocktail hour and handing out your business card. Like, no. It's truly building relationships, helping each other. We say building community. That is actually one of our core values, is to build community. And like, that's what I believe. It's not about networking, like knowing people. It's about building a community of people that support each other. And that, can be all different walks of life, all different types of communities that you're involved in. But I truly believe that being a part and supporting and contributing to communities will help you all day, especially through hard times.
Absolutely. And it comes down to sharing value. It's value on both sides of the equation. Even Gary Vee talks about it too. Sometimes that value prop is shifted one way or another. And if you're the one who has more value, being humble and open enough to say, you know what, it's okay because I'm helping somebody. People have helped me in my career and I want to give back. And I truly believe in that relationship karma. I believe it's always going to come back, one way or another.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's shift and we talk a little bit more about Hawke because I love what you built here. And if you wouldn't mind sharing, when you're either approaching a client or a client approaches you, are there some of those core attributes, those check boxes that you look for and saying, you know what, this will be a good client of us. I know it's going to hopefully be a good relationship.
Yeah, it's really collaborative. It's someone that's coming to team up with us to win, to build their business. Because and that happens a lot. Most people are this way, thankfully. They hire us because they want a teammate they're excited about their business. They want us to be excited and we want to grow it together and they need our expertise or bandwidth. That's the two things people hire us for, bandwidth and expertise. So it is that simple. We always laugh about, there's 3 reasons actually that people hire us for. It's bandwidth, expertise, or a punching bag. We don't like the punching bag people. We don't want to be the blame of why your business isn't succeeding. And that happens. We see it all the time. Like someone will underfinance their company and everything will be great. And then they'll overspend on something or do something that has nothing to do with marketing. And then all of a sudden, everything we did was bullshit. And it's things like that where it's like, as an entrepreneur, you got to take ownership over your business. Everything's your fault. And I believe this in my own business. Everything is my fault. Because if I didn't support someone, train someone, hire the right person, et cetera, it's my fault. And so
absolutely.
The people that don't take that ownership, the victims that are entrepreneurs, don't mesh with me very well and generally turn into kind of a nightmare client. The people that own it and go, what can I do to support? How can we work together? I need you to do this and are communicative. Those are amazing. And that's
accountability, right? And that comes down to entrepreneurship, business owners, and you can step up into that. That's a great question to ask Gary about because Gary's been talking a lot about accountability and something that I speak to. So let's talk about, your internal team.
Yeah.
Building it, and we're going to get into culture and all that stuff too. But tell us a little bit how you interview and how you kind of assess 2 things. And anybody who's interviewing at Hawke, this is your cheat sheet here. There's your opportunity to kind of jump in and get some tips. How do you assess the skill set and then also, as we like to call them in the business, those soft skills? Like, are they really going to be a good mesh for this organization?
So I will say the beginning of this, I am a terrible interviewer. That is
not everyone's a great interviewer.
Yeah.
You could build it though.
So, and I drive, true. And I've been working on it, but I drive people nuts with it. And this feedback came to me recently. So it's fun because apparently people don't even know like what just happened when they interview with me. Cause I generally just talk like this and go, yeah, okay. Like I try to scare the shit out of people not work for me. I want people to come in and know every scary skeleton, everything that's about to happen. I don't try to sell people into working for me. Nope. I'm like, no, this is gonna be super hard. And these are all the problems. And this, like, my partner and I align on that. Like, we want to make sure that there's no one comes in and goes, oh my God, this is a shit show. And we've had that. We've had people, this is an example. This didn't actually happen. But if I hired a general counsel right now and they came in and went, whoa, your legal side of the business is a mess. It's like the line we use regularly is, yeah, we hired an exterminator and you're surprised there's bugs. Like, what are we doing here? So when it comes to interviewing, honestly, for me, I just more want to know, I ask a lot of like just tactical questions of like, if they're interviewing with me, I'm probably working with them directly because I don't interview everyone at Hawke. So it's, our head of marketing position. I want to know how they're going to think through problems, how they're going to complement me, how they're going to build this out. And then also, are they ready to commit? Are they excited about it? Like, that's what I'm interviewing for. I honestly have the compliment of my partner to really interview for the tactical side on those jobs. And then frankly, throughout our organization, we have very, process-driven hiring processes in terms of testing them on aptitude, testing them on culture fit. Like, we have a pretty good system around hiring because we hire a lot. We hired 20 people last month.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and let's bring us to the conversation of COVID. And we're recording this interview mid-October. I think this show will come out sometime November or December. But let's talk about the COVID pivot here. And let's talk about it first from a business perspective. How has it affected your day-to-day business?
Yeah, it's funny enough, for me personally, I was on the road half the time. That's done. So half my normal existence was transformed into staying home, which is unusual, but that had honestly not that big of a big shift from like my lifestyle, but I'm fine with it. So that was like, great. Now I'm home. I get to see my wife more, fine. For the company, I think the only shift is that they're not all together. So like, it's harder to build that camaraderie and that family and team feel, but for our clients, they were never in the office. So it's like we were working on Zoom and Slack and
it didn't affect that
already. Yeah. So operationally, it was not that big a deal. It's more culturally, we're still working through how to bring people together is probably the biggest shift. But
I mean, the culture is interesting too, because you have folks that have been there for a while, right? So you're able to have the continuity there. And as you mentioned, earlier that, you're still trying to figure it out. I think you said 84% of the company said that they do not wish to return, to the physical office, but you're going to figure it out. Maybe it's meetups here and there too. But are you concerned that
instead of a 27,000 square foot office that we have in LA, let's get rid of it, buy a 5,000 square foot house on the beach, which is still way cheaper, and have a 6 house for the team to use whenever they want. Like there's things like that could create really good perks.
That's shifting.
Yeah, exactly. So it's that kind
of
shifting.
Stuff. But how do you keep that day-to-day energy, the culture, like that spirit, that vibe, that energy? Listen, there's only so much shit that we could do over Slack. There's so many freaking Zoom happy hours that we could do. How do you keep? Otherwise, you're just an agency. You're delivering your product. Exactly. Your product is your people there, and if the people aren't engaged and happy and into it and waving your freaking banner around, are you concerned about this?
Absolutely concerned, and it definitely, like you just nailed it, it becomes transactional. What's the difference between working for me and any other agency if they're just running Facebook ads all day and there's no culture?
Exactly.
So that's exactly, and we're working on it. I mean, there's a lot of things we do. We try to help people meet up. And I think there's an important distinction between remote and COVID. Remote, you can figure out. We can get people together. Like without an office, I can afford to fly people around the country. Like I can make it really fun and let people, like our plan is to have clubhouses in a bunch of different cities around the country and let people go work wherever the hell they want and all meet up.
I like it. The office. Like your own like kind of little WeWork, but like just for you guys.
Exactly. Yeah. Something like that. And yeah, I think I said Soho House and then everyone thought we bought Soho House. So
I literally was right about to say it. And I'm like, I think he's more like I don't know what kind of vibe.
It is more Soho House and WeWork. I'm thinking couches and a nice bar versus desks and cubicles.
Yeah. Have a DJ maybe on Friday afternoons or something. We could work it out. We have the technology. We can make it.
And we've got our space in New York already. We just got to get a new space in LA. But yeah, so that part we can work out. But when we can't have anyone together and everyone's being super, and we as a company, because of California, are super liable about doing anything. I'd love to be able to optionally get people together right now. And a lot of them want to get together, but I can't have anything to do with it. And that's the issue of, liability there. So I'm hoping once COVID becomes less of a thing, that's easy. During COVID, we're all on the level playing field. So other agencies aren't doing it that much better. And I'd say a lot of agencies are overspending right now to compensate for it, which is going to bite them in the ass, as we all know. So people are throwing money at it, which doesn't do it. So we hired a whole new support system and HR team around this. And we're building out a lot of different ideas to, how do I put it? Like to just bring those people together. Like we've talked about stupid stuff. Like no one wants another Zoom happy hour. We tried that in the beginning, but we had event.
You're still drinking alone. Ultimately, you're still drinking alone by yourself in front of your computer, which is weird.
Which I believe makes you an alcoholic. But
right, when you drink alone, yeah.
Yeah, we drink alone with a blue light staring at your computer. But it really comes down to what can we do to really engage people? And so we're trying to bring people in on more activities within Hawke. So as I mentioned, the launch of the podcast, having our people submit questions, give feedback, talk about it. We're, working on all sorts of different ways to engage them in all the cool things that we're doing. We have our venture fund and having them come in to help us look at deals, and then frankly, I think a lot of it is just visibility with leadership is important. And I can do a better job of that, where it's talking to our, people, being, presenting to our people, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And you're also more accessible too. That's one of the advantages now. Without traveling. I
will say, as accessible as I am, I've learned as a leader, they're not going to come to me. I've got to go to them. No one's going to out of the blue go, I need to go talk to the CEO. I want to meet him. People do, but it's rare.
Right. So. It's got to make sense there too. Something I want to kind of go back to when we talk about, leadership, throughout your professional career. Something that I kind of embrace in only my 3 or 4 yearship of entrepreneurship journey is to not have a plan B. I mean, I believe that once you have a plan B, that you're already kind of admitting failure. What are your thoughts on having a backup plan?
Oh, I don't think you're admitting failure. I think having contingency plans is what would have saved me a lot of stress the first week of COVID. I think knowing what that looks like so that if it happens, you're ready for it is a pragmatic approach. That doesn't mean bank on it. That doesn't mean aim for it. That means that there are sometimes things out of your control, like a pandemic, and being ready for that. And now we have it. And a lot of companies have those contingency plans just in case. Shouldn't be communicated across the company to make sure everyone's ready for that. I think that's the wrong message, as you just kind of alluded to. But I think there should be key stakeholders that know, if this happens, here's what we do. Similar to knowing, like, if there's a fire or an earthquake, what the plan is. It's like, have that plan. That doesn't mean let's all just wait for the earthquake.
Right. I mean, I'm not so much referring to like contingency side, but I'm thinking more like, hey, listen, I'm going all in. Like for me, when I pivot into my business, I'm saying I am going all in. I'm going to do everything it takes to make this business work. And I didn't want to have a contingency plan because for me, that was almost admitting like I'm kind of setting myself up to fail.
Well, so I guess it's not contingency in that sense, but like, for example, let's say your goal is to do, I don't know, $5 million in revenue this year. So if you do 5 million, what does that look like? If you do 10, what does that look like? If you do 2, what does that look like? If you don't do any, if nobody hires you, what does that look like? What's your next plan? Right. That's what I mean by contingency. I don't mean an alternative. I just mean being prepared. Exactly.
Yeah, like a pragmatic outlook on the different outcomes of that business. And
well, I think, to be clear, I never had that. So when COVID hit, that's what I scrambled to create in the first week because I had no idea where this was going. So it's like,
no idea,
but that forced me to be like, okay, if our revenue drops 80, 60, 20, 40%, whatever it is, what do we have to do? What does that look like for the business? And that's what we ran through. So then it allowed me to free up to actually just march and try to not hit any of those situations because I knew what the plan was. And I got to table it because like, we're not there yet. Now we can watch. And whenever it happens, we know what the plan is. So I can focus on growing. And so that was the part that was, a lot of people got paralyzed because they had no idea what to do. And you see some businesses skyrocketed in this and some got crushed. And I'm not just talking about like digital businesses. I have a friend that owns a chain of gyms that skyrocketed because he stuck with it and figured it out versus a lot of gyms that just closed down. Snack Nation, talked to the owner of that 2 weeks ago. They maintained their revenue this year, pivoting completely out of office snacks. So like, if you're able to figure out that contingency plan, that's being an entrepreneur. You're going to deal with challenges, pandemic or whatever. There's a ton of things that are going to hit you, and your ability to pivot and adapt to that is super important. That's what I mean by that. In terms of, well, if we're going to, throwing your arms up, I don't think that making that an option is the problem, which I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely spot on there. And, from doing my research and from our 30 minutes and 58 seconds of talking right now, there's a theme that comes across and it comes through clear, man. It's tenacity. And that's a word I talk about on the show. That's a pillar, of the podcast. When I say that word tenacity, right, what does that mean to you?
Just to relentlessly stick with it. That's what that means to me is, again, we talked about this a few times, but you're going to get hit with shit. And tenacity to me means just you keep going.
I love it, man. And the bring it home questions, as I like to call them here. For me, this is my masterclass, right? This is my MBA. I learned through osmosis. This is the way I do it, man. And I ask every guest on the show this question, Erik. What is the single greatest piece of advice you've ever received that you take action on every single day?
Swing the bat. Just go for it. Every single day we're trying something new. We're just going for it. Like the things that we've accomplished just because I'm like, well, shit, let's try it. What happens? We either end up where we are right now or we accomplish it. Let's try it. So swinging the bat, we just go for it was always the biggest thing.
That's fantastic. I certainly believe in that. And what would you say to date is your greatest professional accomplishment? If you had to put one, and not that trophy you just showed me, but like, what would you say? What are you proud of? What are you proud of, man, from a business sense?
Honestly, it's just, it is coming through COVID. It's not laying anyone off in COVID, keeping our people together, employing everyone. Like we pay pretty well, and we have 160 plus employees. Like those are all people that are paying their livelihood in a capitalist world. That is the accomplishment. Like to be able to create something that makes money for our clients, that we make money for ourselves, that we make money for our people, that we're able to create something that's fun and I enjoy doing, or people enjoy doing, and actually can create so many jobs. Like that's the part that almost is surreal to me, that like I started something 7 years ago that this many people like literally pay their bills off this. Like that's incredible.
And kudos to you on that, man. That's awesome. And I'd love to end every show, I want to leave on a good note, right? I want to leave on positivity here. And so many of us have experienced, some real bad shit. And, we're doing everything we can to help everybody. And I'm confident that we're going to get through this. But on the other side of it too, there's been a lot of silver linings. There's been a lot of good shit happening to a lot of people there. And I'd love it, Erik, if you could share a personal silver lining and a professional silver lining.
Yep. Personal silver lining is I got in better shape than I'd ever have been. I worked out 80 days in a row, burning over 9 calories. So I was like we're going for it. I then broke my leg and had to take a quick pause, but it's already healed.
You can do upper body? Come on, man. That's soft.
Yeah. No, and by the way, I did. I stuck with it. So, and now we're back at it. I'm out of the cast and, ran for the second time again last night. So we're going. And then I'd say professionally, again, so this is actually a little bit of a fun side note, but my partner and I, business partner, we had all that feedback from quote unquote advisor and stuff, always telling us, hey, you can't have a month-to-month agency. You'll never survive. You can't do this, you can't do that. And we believed we'll be fine. Then they're like, marketing is the first thing to get cut in a recession. You're fucked then because that, you're month to month, they're just going to fire you. I'm like, I don't quite agree because nobody's just going to cut off all their marketing. Like the way we are is flexible. I think there's actually opportunity for us in a recession because we're a cost-effective alternative to the big guys. I think we'll lose some, gain some others. Recession isn't like keeping me up at night. And we would laugh. Like the only thing that's going to crush our business is if like the whole fucking world freezes, like, there's a war or something and everyone just stops doing business.
Apocalypse.
And then March happened. So that we would literally laugh like that's going to happen. And then it literally happened and we made it through. So for the silver lining, it's actually given me more confidence in my business than by far I could ever have. Because I am a realist in a lot of ways too, as much as I'm an optimist. And I'm like, listen, like there were holes, chinks in our armor that could destroy us, including the whole world shutting down because everyone can just fire their marketing firm.
Right.
I've now seen what that looks like, and I've never been more bullish and excited to be running.
Oh yeah, man!
So
I love it.
Running.
That's awesome, man. And last but not least, Erik, listen, you've been through it. You've had your successes, you've had your failures, and when you think about those down times, when you think you're at your lowest there, and you had to pull yourself up and reach down deep inside and really harness that inner tenacity to pull you up. And then on the flip side of that, when you want to show gratitude, when you're just grateful for everything that you created, everything that you have in your life on the personal side and the professional side. Erik Huberman, what is your North Star?
What is my North Star?
What is your compass? What guides you?
A thirst to experience all of life. Like that is really true. I'm the guy that I want to try everything. I want to do everything. I want to really experience everything life has to offer personally, professionally. And so whether it's travel, whether it's new hobbies, whether it's new things in business, that is what excites me and drives me, which is I have a great COO that allows to kind of pick up the slack when I'm on to the next thing and building the next thing. But, that combination so that I can go continue to learn and try new things, that is the big driving factor for me.
I love it, man. Erik, thank you for spending some time with us today. I appreciate it. Where could folks find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more?
Yeah, any social media platform, @/Erik Huberman. Pretty easy.
Easy guy to find. Erik, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Awesome. And everyone joining us today, thank you for spending some time with us on the podcast. You know where to find us at www.thepodcast.com. If you like the show, please leave a comment or rating. It helps fuel the fire. Share it. Spread the word of the podcast. Remember, take care of each other. Wash your hands. Stay 6 feet apart. And catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.